Morning students. Good morning students. The next part or the chapter, the part 2, we will discuss the plenty of space at the bottom, that is on based on nanomaterials. I think you can remember in our previous session we discussed on the fundamentals of nanotechnology, that is the basics of nanotechnology and its application. In the part 2, we will discuss the nanomaterials, that means the approaches, different approaches, and after that, the challenges with nanomaterials. And lastly, we will discuss the surface probe microscopy, that means the foundation or innovation part, that what I explained, that in 1985 Roher and Binig first invented the surface probe microscopy, where we can manipulate or control in the nano level, that is in the atomic level. So I will discuss here this part, and also the classification of the nanomaterials in the different aspects with this. First, the approaches. Nanotechnology has two distinct approaches. One is called the top-down approach. This is the top-down approach. Another is the bottom-up approach. Top-down approach is the current technology where we are doing the continued reduction in size, that means shrinkage of device dimension by the optical, ultraviolet or ion beam, nowadays the electron beam lithography system. Lithography means what? That is, the litho means stone, graphy means writing. So here we will do the down scaling by in the size by the lithography. One of the technique is the lithography techniques. The bottom up approach is another approach where from the molecules, the assemble of molecules, from there we will get or we will achieve our final product. So in a nutshell, if I will explain the top down approach and bottom up approach, I can say in the two ways. That means one is the from large we are downscaling by synthesis process to achieve the small. That is our main goal or objective. Another way where we will start from the smaller, that means the collection of molecules or atoms, we are saying it is the clusters. From the clusters we will originate or we will produced our final product, that is basically the small. So from smaller to small is basically calling the bottom up approach. Now here this is very interesting. In 1964 IBM first launched the computer which was occupied, I already told several times, which was occupied the small auditorium hall, and you see all the accessories are there. And what is the CPU? That is 8 MB. So you people will laugh because you are using the dimension, that means this is the your smartphone. And what is the dimension? It is the dimension of a palm, just like your palm, right? So it will occupy just like your palm. This is the system, right? Just you think that when fast computer came into the market, the size, the dimension was this. And today, due to the advancement of the technology and using the top-down approach, we could able to shrink the device dimension. So how is it possible? If you'll see another way, we can explain in 1958, first Robert Noy IC, integrated circuits. This is basically the how many? This it is only 5 transistors are assembled here. Whereas Pentium 4, I am not given the latest technology. Here the Pentium 4, there 40 million transistors are assembled with the passive elements. So the active elements and the passive elements, that is all occupied into this dimension. How many? It is 40 million. So from 5 transistors to 40 million transistors, we are just able to do within 60 years. So this is the achievement, and that is happening due to the top down approach. Now what is top down approach? I already told the photolithography, that is photo means light, litho means stone, graphy means writing. So using the light, just you see that this is the image we want. This is the image, but on the silicon wafer, we can get using the convex lens, we can easily able to replicate, or we can miniaturize the image, and you can see that this is due to the how many replica we can wish, that is we can do. So that is the top down, means from the image we can easily making it small. Now this is basically the silicon wafer. I am showing here, in reality this is the silicon wafer. Okay, so you can see that this is the silicon wafer, and this silicon wafer we are basically making the here we can make the devices, different devices, and the using the lithography. Just this is the silicon wafer, this is the same like this, and after that here you can see the photo mask, and we are doing the reduction of the lenses. This is using the condenser. If I want to make there here the replica or any kinds of the stars, that is the image, that is we can do using the reduction of lenses, and we can make this FFF. So this is the process. I'm not going in detail the process, but what I wanted to say that using this we can easily make the devices. So this is the process from where we are basically making the devices. So now the question is how we can do this using the top down approach, how we can shrink or squeeze the dimension of the device. Just you see, just nowadays I'm just giving a real example, that nowadays we are if you ask to your parents, they are staying in house or home, and nowadays if I'll ask to you the where you are staying, most of your answer will be in flat. Flat means where you can put lots of peoples in a stack wise. Means stack wise means it is just like this. So stack wise you can assemble a lots of parcels. So vertical, like the layer by layer growth, here you can see the first layer we will do the device design. After that there is a second layer, we can contact, making the contact with the first layer and second layer by the metal contacts, and after that we can make the third layer, so and so on. So like this we can finally make the device. And this is only the industry in the world, in the semiconductor industry, where the price are basically when the first product launched in the market, like in laptop, the cost was very high, but when it is coming to the production, you know that the cost are lower. So the laptop you can get like 35K with a good config or for 35 to 40K, but previously it was 60, 65K. I'm talking about 2003. So that is only the industry. How is it possible? Because of the different, you can see this is the, I already showed you, this is the silicon wafer mapping, and you can see there is a how many devices. These are all the individual devices that we can make easily. So that is possible due to the top down approach. Next we will go to the self assemble or bottom up approach. In the self assemble bottom up approach, the best example in my mind is our body, human body, or the constructions. If you think about the sail, from the body sail, we know that the it is basically the from the body sail we will sails are assembled together to do a particular work. Then it is called the tissue. From the tissue we can build the organ. From the organ we can build the limb, and from the limb we are basically building the human body. So it is just like a approach, like same. If you see the seed, from the seed the trees are basically coming out. So from the zygote, or after fertilization, from the zygote to the total body formation or total tree formation, the plant or human or animal, that is a self assembled techniques. So, or the bottom up approach. Just here it is given an example that these are all the magnetic domains. If I use one magnet, then they will oriented in a particular manners, and due to the attraction, and this is basically the same things, and then it will be, it behaves like a magnet. So for a particular purpose, when the atoms or the molecules or the clusters, that means the assemble of atoms and molecules, are oriented and they are for a particular function, they are engage themselves, then it is called the this is the bottom up approach the process. Now I am given here one examples, just to see that zinc nitrate. From the zinc nitrate we use the citrus limetta, that is the we are using, it is a commercial fruits are available in the market. I mean the fruits market, the juice we are just collecting from there, that will used as the this the binder. Binder means the such that there will be the a cover or the cover, and which will basically isolate from another one. Just this is called the scanning electron microscope image, where you can see the formation means of the nanotubes, how the nanotubes are forming. Here we are doing the different this intermediate stage. If you see, this is A. Here you can not see too much formation of the nanotubes, but here you can see the density of the nanotubes are increasing, and during the reaction, the chemical reaction. And the last one, the D, is basically you can get the nanotubes formation more. Okay, so that is the way that when we are doing the nanomaterials, the main challenge, there is some challenge that we have to resist them such that they will not agglomerate or coagulate. So that is the main challenge, and that's why we are using the surfactant or the ligand. That is here the role here is the citrus limetta. The juice of citrus limetta is basically the acting as a surfactant or the ligand to resist them in a nanomaterials formation. Okay, so this is the TEM, transmission electron microscope image. Here also you can see they are just like a nanomaterials, and when we are seeing through ACM, then we can see lots of nanotubes. These are all the nanotubes which are forming. Now the question is, this is another one, that is a bottom up approach. This is another bottom up approach. Here we are doing the hydrothermal, the ZNO hydrothermal treatment. We are using the autoclave, and in the autoclave there we put, you see the yellow materials are basically the ZNO nucleus, and to resist them there is the phobic nature we are basically making by the capping molecule. So the capping molecule, I told, this is a surfactant. In this case we are using the different tea leaves extract. Okay, and there we are showing the different ACM images or TEM images of the same morphologies, and these are the wide applications. Similarly, in case of now we are going for the challenges. What are the challenges? There is two distinct challenge for the nanostructure materials. One is the high surface to volume ratio. So we are very important to know that the surface area is if you'll see in my previous discussion, that means the part 1, there I showed the day-to-day life. There is animals, the high surface to volume ratio, how it is affecting their body structure and body materials. So here is also we are showing this high surface to volume ratio, a very small experiment that you can also do in your home, and you can easily realize that what I wanted to say, that if you put the fine salt in a aqueous solution, and aqueous means the water with water contents, another is the coarse salt means the lump, then for the lump it will take more time because its surface area to volume ratio is very less compared to the granules, the fine salt. So this is one of the reason that the reactivity will increase. The reactivity will increase with surface area, high surface area compared to the volume. So this is one of the challenges for the nanomaterials. Another challenge is that is the optical properties. If you see that in the optical properties, we know that the color of gold is always it is the yellow, the bulk gold. But if we consider this the nanomaterials, nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles, it depends upon the size. If we can get the purple, green, blue, any kinds of colors based on the size. So this is basically are showing the different sizes of gold nanoparticles are put here, and when we will do the optical analysis, then we can get the different absorption part. Okay, so next is the classification of the nanomaterial composition wise. I can say the carbon based, metal based, composites and dendrimers. The important is that carbon based means this is mostly it is composition wise. So the hollow spheres, ellipsoids or tubes or spherical and ellipsoidal. So these applications, we know that the stronger and lighter materials, also the carbon nanotube, carbon the graphene, these are very important role in the applications of electronics. And the metal based nanomaterials, that is the quantum dots, nano gold, nano silver, metal oxides, these are all come under this category. And the tuning of the optical properties based on size, we know the applications in the biomedical angiography is angiography is basically a very great examples, I can say, that is there we are using the nanotechnology. Also the smartphone, the microprocessors, there is also we are using the metal interconnects, that is also the nanomaterial based. Also there is a composites, the shape, the combined nanoparticle with other nanoparticles for enhancement of the mechanical and thermal properties. Also the photocatalysts, pharmaceutical drug degradation, for this purpose we can use the composites. And dendrimers is basically the nano-sized polymers. It is built from tree or branched units, like in the applications in the biomedicine, bioimaging used in the MRI. I think this is also for the medical applications, or kidney imaging, there we can use the dendrimers. Okay, so this is the composition wise nanomaterial classification. Next is the classification materials on dimensions wise. So the one is the 1 0 dimension, another is the 1 2 and 3. 3 is basically the bulk one. So if I see I categorized this part in the the discrete nano objects, surface nano featured, another is the bulk nanostructure. So you can see that the all dimensions are at nanoscale, then we can say it is a zero dimension. So the smoke is a nanoparticles. There is also the nanoparticles. The best example, smoke, where we can see the discrete nano objects. The surface nano feature, that is the nanocrystalline films. Bulk nanostructure is the nanocrystalline materials composites. Similarly, in one dimension, the two dimensions at nanoscale, that means in the less than 100 nanometer. The discrete is the nanorods or nanotubes, CNT, carbon nanotube. Surface nanofeatured is the nano interconnects, we can say. Bulk nanostructure, that is nanotube, reinforced composites. In two dimension, there is a one dimension is in the nanoscale. So the discrete nano objects is the nanofilms or foils. Surface nanofeatured is the nano surface layers, and the bulk nanostructure is a multi-layered structure. For the bulk, I think in nature, whatever this is, all the bulk materials are coming into this category. So these, whatever the nanomaterials you are seeing as in your surroundings, these are all coming to these 9 categories in my understanding. Next is the quantum dot. This is the quantum dot, that you can see that the amorphous structure here, this one is a crystalline structure. When the crystalline structure are embedded in an amorphous matrix, and the diameter is like less than 10 or 20 nanometer, then we can say it is a quantum dot. And this is a quantum wire, that means it is two solid material forming the diameter smaller than of about 100 nanometer. So these are basically the nanostructure materials, we can say. Now this is the graphene. Graphene is another the carbon based nanomaterials I already discussed. There you have seen the hollow nanowire, typically with a wall thickness of the order of molecular dimensions. And the fluorines, this is the fluorines, this is a very popular because of buckyball structure. It is called the buckyball structure, and Smalley and Kroto got the Nobel Prize for the same. And here 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons, that is the geometrical structures, are basically assembled. And what is the diameter of this buckyball structure is a 70 nanometer in diameter. So how many there is it is an isotope, 60 carbon atoms are assembled together to make the fluorine structure. So now I am going to the last one, that is the surface probe microscopy, that is whatever the statement is given by Richard E. Smalley in 1959. There is a plenty of room at the bottom to realize. We took 25 years, I told you already, and Roher and Binet got the success on this. So here I just gave one optical illusion picture. You can see this is just like a tree if you see from a just in a macro scale, but if you see in a very minutely, then you can easily observe there is a 10 Indian leaders image are given, right? So if I see in different angle views, then we can get the different informations. So that is the scanning probe microscopy ability to control, to see, measure and manipulate matter on the atomic scale is basically those properties and functions. So these are the two guys, Roher and Binet. They got the Nobel Prize. What they did, first they wrote in 1986 they got the Nobel Prize, but they wrote IBM using the xenon atoms. So that is their achievement. And what is scanning probe microscopy? This is one of the part of the scanning probe microscopy. You can see here, this is the tip, this one the tip, the STM tip, scanning tunneling microscope tip, and this is the surface, means our material surface. And what is happening here, you can see there is a current is flowing through this very small current with high magnetic field, electric field we are providing. But the thing is that the distance is very less, So this is the current is not like without where the current is flowing through it. So this is basically called the tunneling current or tunneling leakage current. So using this we can see the atoms. Just you see the platinum, this is the surface of platinum. The atoms are oriented in a crystalline manner, but in case of STM, the limitations of STM is the sample should be conducting in nature. And here we are basically seeing the data storage system. Next, this is the atomic force microscope, where we know that it is any kinds of materials like insulate conductor or conducting or non-conducting, any material we can use here, and they are basically based on the van der Waals force of interaction. That is, when the two electrons, when the two atoms are coming together very near, then they are repelling to each other. When they are away, then they were attracting to each other. So based on these, the AFM, the atomic force microscope, are basically making. I did myself the silicon nanowire reforming, the silicon nanowire, and this is the image from AFM. You can see the nanowire formation, and here this is the scanning. When the scanning, they are doing the raster scan. This is a cantilever. It will not touch on the surface, but it seems that it is touch, but it is not touch on the surface. And they will do the scan, and you can see it is a formation of the nanowire. That is the understanding of the nanowire we can easily see or visualize. So we can do the manipulation, we can create, or we can visualize in the nano level, in the nanoscale. That part I just, whatever Richard Feynman told, that is I just showed you in in this presentation. Thank you. Again, this is the nanotechnology education. I already discussed that nano is diverse but unified. Next, this is the last one. Today's science fiction is often tomorrow's science fact. So we will always think about, and we always keep in mind to do any kinds of innovations. Okay, the Stephen Hawking's statement. And thank you for my research scholars as well as the persons who are basically involved, help me to achieve this knowledge or acquire this knowledge. Thank you for your patience.